Myself, Urvashi Shapra, Assistant Professor from Department of Computer Science and Application from Centenary College, Faridabad. Today I am going to discuss about the subject Management Information System. This subject is for BCA 5th semester student and we are going to start with Unit 1. Management Information System. Management Information System is a system used to make decisions and used for the coordination, control, and analysis to be done in an organization. The study involves the technology, the people, and the processes involved in the organization. It is a kind of a planned system of an organization through which transactions are recorded by collecting, storing, and disseminating the data which are actually needed to carry out the functioning of the organization. To understand MIS, first of all, we should understand about data, information, and system. Now, what exactly is data and how it differs from information? Data. Data are raw facts and figures. They are collected through observations. They are set of values, maybe in numbers, words, and measurements, etc. In other form, they can be text documents and even images. Data is set to be without text, that is, it is not related to any context or any situation or any topic even. Then the data is said to be having no context. When we talk about data, they can be just the numbers or the text. And when we talk about the information, information is actually the data with the context. That means the data which is related to some situation or some topic or some head name, which is also said to be a kind of a process data. The data processed with the help of some functions, some calculations, some logical calculations performed on that data, then the data is said to be the processed data. After processing, some extra value is being added to data. This value is actually made to summarize the data. The data is then organized after the processing. It can be used for analysis also. So the processed form of data is said to be an information. Now we'll talk about the characteristics of information. Information. It is the processed data which should be available according to the time. That is timeliness. When we talk about timeliness, that is the information should be provided on time with all its reports and facilities where we can use these facilities in an organization to make the decisions at appropriate time. Data, when processed, it takes a shape of information which is altogether accurate because the source from which we had recorded that information is the recorded past data. It should always be accurate because not many decisions are also dependent upon this accurate data. Then we can talk about the relevance of that information. The information should always be relevant because many decisions are to be taken for the organization. The information should be adequate, self-explanatory even. It should be complete in itself because incomplete information may mislead the decisions. Next is explicitness. Explicitness is basically, when we talk about, it is the explicit or particular or may be specified information related to some current situations. This is what we have about information. Then we talk about the system. What is a system? System is an interrelated set of business procedures used within one business unit, working together for some purpose. For example, a system in the payroll department keeps track of checks, whereas an inventory system keeps track of supplies. The two systems are separate but work under a single organization. The general model of the physical system is input, process, and output. What exactly is input? Input is the data, that is the raw facts and figures, which we actually take into the system, and process, that is the functions which are being performed on that input. They may be arithmetic, they may be logical functions. Now, after being processing, the reports or the information which is generated out of that system is said to be the output of the system. Next, we come to elements of system. Now, let us discuss what is system made up of. System is made up of components, different types of components. Now, these components are interrelated components. That means they are interconnected, even because the flow of information has to be there within these components, which actually makes these components function and activate all that functionality so that the output may be resumed out of that system. But these components have certain boundaries of their working. They have to work within their limits, where the input has to be performed by the input devices, the process has to be taken care by the complete system, then the output has to be derived from the output devices. Then what is the purpose of the system? The purpose of the system is to make the work more convenient, to understand the work more conveniently, and to make or perform that work up to the mark of accuracy as well as into the time limits. This makes the work in a very speedy process, and which leads the work to be performed on time. Then we talk about the environment. Environment is where exactly we stand into that system. That is what kind of platforms we are using, what kind of environment we are using, through which a user friendly kind of functionality of the system can be made. Now, this user friendly functionality means the user should be comfortable to use that system and should be quite interactive kind of system, so that he or she may understand what exactly systems is linked to. Then we have interfaces. Now, interfaces are the platforms which makes the system to be understood by the user, as well as whatever the user wants to convey to the system, that can be conveniently passed on to the system. So interfaces helps, or it acts as a bridge between the system and the user. Then we talk about the constraints. So to have the functionality, smooth functionality, we have to restrict certain entries to our system. Now these entries, that means the users which are not, they are not allowed, or they unwanted kind of users cannot enter into a system. So some restrictions are being laid down. These restrictions are said to be the constraints for the system. So you can define certain keys, you can define certain passwords, or some restrictions, security restrictions can be made so that unwanted users cannot enter into the system. Then we can have input for the system. Then this input is processed to have the output from the system as in the forms of reports or the information. Next, we come to the characteristics of the system. Now, characteristics, if we talk about the system, that can be in different forms. First, we have is the organization. When we are talking a system as an organization, then what exactly the components are how they are organized, we are talking about. So the organization of these components may be a manual, maybe a technical kind of system we are talking here. So the basic organization should be very structured and in a very a particular order, so that flow of information can be easily understandable, as well as it should be easily uh, or conveniently followed by the people involved in that system. So best example for a structured and ordered form of organization is the hierarchical organization in a company. When we study some information related to a company, then we understand that the flow of information in a company always happens to be like from top level, the instructions, top level management actually pass on the instructions to the middle level management. The middle level management is actually to make the work possible by giving those instructions to the lower management people. That is what we call as bottom level management. Now, the bottom level management, like the people who are workers or supervisors who manage the actual work in the company, they basically complete the job and report back to the middle level managers, maybe managers, engineers, or senior engineers, those who are involved in that company or organization. So middle level management people are there to collect the reports from those bottom level. They compile that report and submit it to the top level management, so that further the top level management can make the necessary decisions, can actually plan for the further targets on the basis of that report. So this is the best example of hierarchical organization, that is flow of information from top to bottom and from bottom to top. Next comes the computer system. Computer system is, we can call it as a technology when we are talking about. So we can have the organization of various components into a computer system. Let's say we are talking about the hardware components of that system. We have input devices, we have output devices, we have CPU and storage devices. Now all these when get connected and the flow of data happens to be there in these devices, and further after being processed the output is derived out of these devices, then it is said to be the computer system. So next is our interaction that is between subsystems or the components. When we are talking about a system, the components of that system should be they should be so properly tied up that a proper flow of information should be there. Like from which component to some other component the information is following, then it should be from the proper place to a targeted place in a well-mannered form. So there should be some interaction among the components as well as between the subsystem and the main system. Then the best example for this is the main memory, which holds the data that has to be operated by the ALU. That means an ALU is responsible for its functionality, that is to perform arithmetic and logical unit, which performs arithmetic and logical calculations on that data. Now this kind of process which follows on that data, basically they get these kind of this data from main memory, which is holding that data, and main memory supplies that data to ALU, and then ALU processes it, and finally the information which is derived from that data will send back to main memory and will be stored there temporarily to show the output on the output devices. Next we have interdependence. The components basically their dependence is necessary, they should be interdependent, and some linkage should be there, so that flow of information should be properly lined up among the components. Then we have integration. Integration is how subsystems are tied up together to achieve the system objective. That is, there is a main objective of a system. Now, to achieve that objective, some subsystems are laid down. Let's say suppose input device we are talking about, that is a subsystem of a main system. Now, input device, actually it works like you put in data through that input device. So that input device is going to be linked up with the main memory where the data is going to be supplied and stored. So they should be integrated. That is, means to say there should be some connection among between those two components. Then only the information will actually sent from input device to the main memory. As for example I had given, then we have is central objective. Central objective of the system is basically decided, or you can say it should be like at early phases of analysis. When we design the system, we actually decide the objective of that system. Then only we actually make the design, do the designing of the system, so that the proper analysis can be made on the data and the information. Now this is a kind of layout for characteristics of system. Then we have types of systems. Now types of systems, basically we are talking here the types of systems available with the different kind of organizations. Now these organizations actually process for the day-to-day their happenings. Now these kind of happenings, you say the kind of activities which are being performed in a company, it may be sale, purchase, or stock keeping, or maybe invoicing, maybe you can say accounts, payroll, whatever kind of transactions, the activities which are performed, they are considered to be the transactions. Now these transactions are being recorded into a system which is called as transaction process system. In this, the process of collection of transaction occurred in the prescribed dates. They are recorded and processed. That means you mention a date, say, let's say today we are on a particular date and we want to record the transaction of the sales. And today, if we have recorded the number of sales has to be 100 transactions for the sales team. So these sales team which have actually sold the goods, they'll be recorded as a separate transaction for each salesman and separate transaction for each sale. So these transactions will be recorded into the system, and end of the week, end of the month, we can have the collection of that data, collection of that sales into our records, and further we can process it and can calculate what is the monthly sale, what is the quarterly sale, what is the annual sale of the system. So these are the day-to-day transactions which are being recorded into transaction process system. Then we have is a decision support system. Now this system is very much important as per the planning department. Planning, we say the higher level management, the top level management who are involved in it. In this, the decision support system actually, this system is to take decisions on the basis of data collected, and data driven decisions are always more accurate and valid. So we understand out of this statement that when we collect the data, when we record these transactions, on the basis of these transactions only we can come to certain nutshell results, or we can actually take the decisions on the basis of those results. Like what will be the further targets of that organization, what they have to cut short, what they have to improve. Say they want to have more profits, so how should they invest into their cost. So these all kind of decisions can be taken on the basis of the records being collected. Now, to have the accuracy of our valid data into their records, in this type of management, we take decisions on the past data or the data which is being recorded. So next is our expert system. Now expert system is driven by a group or panel of experts on the basis of their experience. The best example for this is the artificial intelligence. Basically, it's a kind of expert system where different experts give the inputs in the form of the all possible variables. I mean, if something is going to happen, excuse me, if something is going to happen, what are the probabilities of those happenings? So the thing is, the probabilities are being recorded. These probabilities may be in the form of variables, like say some motion or some activity is there. So how this activity, that motion can vary from time to time, or can vary from direction to direction. This can be recorded with the help of the observation and experiences. So expert system is basically a team of experts which lay down this kind of system. So this was all about the theory for systems. What exactly are the systems, and what are the characteristics, how they are made, and what are the types of systems. So this is the end of the topic for today's session. That is the unit 1. So next time we'll have further the subjective knowledge of MIS. So thank you for the day.